Hello, everyone. Welcome to Star USA Training. Today is May 13th, and today we are talking about continuing education for licensed customs brokers. Thank you all so much for being here. Whether you are watching us live or the recording, we are so happy you're here. And we have a fantastic panel of speakers today. Thank you to all of our guests that are joining us. If you are here live, we would love for you to introduce yourself in the chat. We love to get to know you. Say hello. Let us know where you are joining us from. Also, one of the things here at Star USA that we are really working towards this year is getting more connected with all of you on LinkedIn as well. So if you're on LinkedIn, find Star USA. We'd love to connect with you, and we will see you over there as well. Today's event is being recorded. So if you registered, we'll be sending out an email in the next couple days with the link to the recording, the slides, and any resources that we share. If you're watching the recording, you can head to our website. You can find all of that information as well. Today's event has been approved for one continuing education credit for licensed customs brokers and those with the CCS designation with NCBFAA. If you have questions throughout our time today, please drop them in the Q&A section. It's a separate feature from our chat. Typically in our chat, we get lots of engagement, which we love. We encourage it, but it's hard to find your questions. So if you have a question, please pop it in the Q&A. With that said, let's get started. I'm Melissa Merkle. I am the manager of our education and outreach team here at Star USA. I'm so privileged to be joining you today. This is actually my first webinar with Star USA, and it's great to meet all of you. My teammate, Larissa Smith, is also on with us. She's going to be managing the chat, so make sure you say hello to Larissa in the chat as well. Star USA, if you are not familiar with us, we provide international trade compliance and training, consulting advice. We like to say if it involves crossing the border, we've likely done it. We offer a number of programs handling tariff classification, free trade programs, CTPAT, and many more things. In the training department, my team runs our customs broker exam prep course, which we are actually enrolling right now for our next course, preparing for the October exam. So if you are not licensed yet, or you know someone that's thinking of taking the exam in October, we'd love to have them join our course. My team also handles these free monthly webinars that we do, in-person workshops, and creating customized training for a number of individual clients. If you are interested in any of our services, feel free to reach out to us at train@starusa.org. I'm also going to be sharing a QR code later on in the webinar for our Contact Us form as well. So we'd love to talk with you. All right, let's get to what we're talking about today. We are going to be following this roadmap throughout our time together. We are going to start with introductions of our continuing education team, these wonderful panelists that are joining us today. Next, we're going to move on to discussing general requirements, finding accredited events, obtaining and tracking your code, how and when to submit to CBP and record keeping, and if there is time remaining, we will get to all of your questions as well. All right, let's jump in to today's panelists, our wonderful guests that are on with us. Thank you all again for being here. We are so privileged and excited for this conversation today. We have Elena Ryan and Heather Cheshire from CBP. Hello and welcome to you both. We also have Cynthia Whittenburg here from NCBFAA, and this is the organization that STAR uses to get our education events approved and accredited for credit. We have Marianne Rowden from EMTC here today. Welcome. We have Lisa Gelsomino from ICPA, and we have Andrea Jeglum from Sandler, Travis, and Rosenberg. And again, we are so grateful that all of you are here. And All of these organizations offer amazing resources to customs brokers and other professionals within international trade. And I would love to do a deep dive into all of these organizations because they do amazing things. And I encourage you, when you get these slides or just on your own, to visit the websites and reach out to these wonderful women and really get connected and understand what your resources are. So we have CBP, and then we have 4 of the 5 accrediting partners as well. And Andrea, I'm going to come to you first. Can you help us understand what an accrediting partner is, what that means, and also how an accrediting partner is different than an educational provider like STAR? I'm going to turn the mic over to you.
Okay, sure, Melissa. No, thank you for having us today and putting this program together. So the government accreditor is CBP, and then there are the partner accreditors, as Melissa mentioned. And the partner accreditors are organizations, the 4 of the 5 are here today, that applied for and were approved by Customs to be a partner accreditor. And we are, separate organizations that have approval from Customs to accredit continuing education. We are different. Many of us provide our own education as well, but we are different from a general education provider because we are authorized by CBP to give continuing education credit to education providers. So if you are an education provider, or even if you're in a company giving education to your own employees or your own licensed customs brokers, you can apply to one of us to have your education accredited. And then many of us ourselves also give our own continuing education. And for that, we go to one of the other accreditors to get our training accredited.
Interesting. I didn't realize that as an accreditor, you would submit your information to another accreditor to get approved.
Yes, we do.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. I know there's been some confusion and some questions that we've gotten around that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we are moving through our roadmap. We are going to talk about some general requirements here, and we're going to do a poll. So we're going to test your knowledge as well for all of you that are watching. Our first poll question, I'm going to pull it up here for you. Here we go. Our first poll question: why is CBP requiring continuing education? Your choices of answers are they got bored and needed more work to do, or 2, to encourage brokers to stay current with changes in the regulations. Is it 3, passing the exam was too easy, so CBP added a sequel? Or is it 4, to give brokers a chance to practice filling out more paperwork? A fun poll here to kick us off today. Ooh, I see so far a lot of results coming in. Awesome. We'll give it just a few more seconds. All right, I'm going to end the poll and share the results here. All right, so 98% of you said to encourage brokers to stay current with the changes. Yeah, awesome. We've got 1% for both CBP got bored, and Elena and Heather. I'm sure you don't feel like that most days. And passing the exam was too easy as well. So how fun. Elena and Heather, I'm going to turn this over to you. Can you share why CBP started and some of the general requirements, how many credits we need right now, and some of the general information?
Yeah, so I will speak a little bit to the poll, and then Heather's going to talk to you a little bit more about the requirements as they are in the regulations and as they are going to be for this triennial cycle, which we are currently in the middle of, and is obviously a little bit shorter since we started the program. It became effective in the middle of a triennial cycle. So this program started more than 10 years ago as an idea, and not to put my fellow panelist, Cynthia Whittenburg, into PTSD, but she was actually the one who first started talking about this with broker associations, and NCBFAA actually came to us and was looking to maybe get something started in this arena. You all do hold a license. It is a professional license, and it is, you all know what it took to get here, the amount of preparation and learning that took place prior to taking the exam, then the actual exam. If you passed it on your first chance, yay! But most people have to take it multiple times. You have to go through a fairly lengthy background investigation that is very similar to the one that we as CBP employees have to go through. You are now an extension, a federal agent of the government. So it's very important to us that you are professional, you know what you're doing, and that you stay that way. And one of the things a commissioner long ago, he is long since retired, was flirting with was making licensed brokers periodically retake the exam. We thought that that was an incredible administrative burden. So we decided instead to look at things like continuing education. There are many professions that have licenses that have a continuing education requirement. Marianne Rowden, who is another one of our panelists, also holds a law degree. So she also takes continuing education to maintain that license. Realtors have licenses that need to be kept up in most states through continuing education. So we wanted to join that echelon of professionalism. It is incredibly important to stay on top of what is going on with CBP. And I have never had a hard time selling that concept when I've been out talking to folks, both before this requirement came into place and after. But over the last 3 months and a half now, I think you understand why it's important to keep up on what's going on. Even if you don't file entries, even if you are primarily in a consulting capacity or compliance capacity, where you yourself don't type in entries and hit the send button to get that entry to us, it is so important as compliance professionals that you understand all of the different requirements that are in place right now concerning the tariffs, because there is a heck of a lot of money at stake right now. You are the most important conduit between CBP and importers who are very confused, who are very panicked, who are seeing these things in the press come out every day and may not understand how it is affecting them. You as brokers are critical to helping the importing community understand that and help them get whatever exceptions are available through the various mechanisms that we have, and also to keep them on top of the changes. And it really is day-to-day changes. We had a fact sheet that we were presenting last week when we were at the Trade Summit in New Orleans. I hope that some of you were able to attend that as well. And we were joking that our fact sheet wasn't even going to make it to the end of the week, that we were going to pass it out on Tuesday and it wouldn't be good on Friday because there were so many changes. It did make it, but it didn't make it through the weekend. We had changes come out yesterday morning. They are going to be implemented in the coming days. Keep your eye out for the Federal Register notices and CSMS messages. There's just so much going on right now, and it is so important that you stay on top of things. Continuing education is a mechanism for you to do that and keep records of it and keep keep proof that you have done it so that your license is safe and maintained. So that's sort of the background there. In terms of requirements, I will pass that over to Heather.
Hi. Okay, so the regulations state that if you are an individual licensed customs broker holder, you need to do 36 hours of continuing education every triennial. So that works out to 1 credit a month. However, this is a different triennial. The initial triennial is different because, as Elena said, we didn't it didn't go into effect until January 1st, 2025. And as you all know, the triennial started in 2024. So we made the decision to only require 20 continuing education credits for this initial triennial. I also want to say, Elena and I were at the trade summit. Marianne and Cynthia were there as well. And Trudy from True Trade, she's another accreditor. And we had a broker who just passed the exam. She found out literally 5 minutes before she came to our table. And so she said, what do I have to do for CE? And I said, nothing. If you get your license in a triennial, you do not have to do continuing education for that triennial because you took the test, you studied for 8 months. I think you're good. But I'm not going to say don't do it. I mean, for your own knowledge, just like Elena said, things are happening very quickly, and knowledge is power. So I just want to make that clear for any of your colleagues or friends that work with you. If they passed it within a triennial, they don't have to start till the next triennial for continuing education.
Fantastic. Thank you both. And Elena, I think I speak for everyone that's listening when I say thank you for not requiring all of our licensed customs brokers to take the exam again. That would be quite a bit.
What can I tell you? We didn't want to do that either.
I'm sure.
That is an undertaking.
I'm sure. So before we jump to our next section, we do have some questions. We've been getting questions for the past 3 or so months. And so we'd like to do a little quick fire round here. So Marianne, I'm going to come to you first. Can you answer this question for us? Do courses taken in 2024 count for continuing education credit?
The answer is no. As Heather indicated, the program was rolled out in November 2024, but its effective date is January 1st, 2025. Now, we as accreditors started approving courses in 2024, but we put that date starting January 1st, 2025. And the regulations or the requirements enable us to have a course, a accredited course, for a year. So if you took a course on January 1st, 2025, that course is valid till January 1st, 2026.
Awesome. Thank you. Our next question, Lisa, I'm going to come to you next. If I suspend my license, do I need to do continuing education during that time?
I think you want to really have CBP address that issue because it's a compliance situation that I think CBP should discuss.
Awesome. Elena or Heather, how would you answer if someone has a suspended license?
If you have a suspended license, you don't need to take continuing education. You will come to us with a letter asking us to voluntarily suspend your license. You'll need to give us a brief overview of why you would like to suspend your license. You don't need to go into great detail, but we need to have some sort of record of why you are deciding to do that. And then once you are ready to come out of suspension, then you will come back to us and we will review what needs to be done so that your license can be reactivated and you can continue on as an active broker. In the past, we haven't had all that many suspended licenses. The main reason that people suspended their license was because they held a federal position, and you aren't allowed to be a federal employee and also be an active customs broker. Now, however, because of the continuing education requirement, we are going to allow you to suspend your license for other reasons. If the continuing education requirement is going to be too difficult for you to maintain. And we're thinking things like you're going to be overseas for several years. You are going to pursue another degree, like you're going to go to law school. Do you really want your continuing education to be part of that when you're so invested in another education program? Things like that. Again, we don't need to go into great detail here about why we would suspend your license, and you don't need to go into great detail if you would like to have your license suspended. We just need to know the basics. One thing I want to make very clear, though, is that even if your license is suspended in a suspended state, you will still need to complete the triennial reporting. And so that doesn't mean you're off the hook completely. You will still need to do that report and pay your triennial fee. You are only suspending the continuing education requirement if you suspend your license. So we want you to be very clear on that.
But I just want to add, if you suspend your license, you cannot practice. You cannot be doing business
Correct.
as a broker.
Thank you. So what happens if someone is outside of the United States and their license is not suspended? Can they still do continuing education outside of the States? Elena or Heather, do you have thoughts on that? And I suppose maybe it would depend if someone was just traveling, or I guess I don't know. We were asked the question, so.
Can you repeat the question? You froze when you were asking it, and so I didn't catch it. I apologize.
No, sorry about that. The question was, can I do continuing education if I am outside of the United States? That was the question.
Yes, but we need to be careful about, are you practicing customs business outside the United States, which is not legal. It is fine, obviously, for you to be taking online courses or be participating in webinars when you're not physically located in the United States, but be careful about what else you're doing when you're outside of the United States, because you aren't allowed to be practicing customs business. And consulting is not customs business. Customs business is filing entries and doing what's in the regulations.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. I just have one more question in this section. And Heather, you had touched on this when you were talking. The question that came in was, if I took the exam in 2023, but I didn't get my license until 2024, do I still need the 20 hours for this triennial period?
Okay, so if you got your license within this triennial, which would be February 1st, 2024 through January 31st, 2027, you do not have to do CE. But if you got your license anytime before the dates that I just said, yes, you have to do the 20 continuing education credits. It's all about like it's the triennial, because it's tied to the triennial, because you're reporting on the triennial. We tried to make this as easy as possible. It's just going to be a little radio button that you click that says, yes, I did the CE. And then if you didn't do the CE, you have to explain why.
Perfect. Thank you. So it's about the license date, not the date you passed the exam, is what matters.
Yes,
Exactly.
exactly. Yes, that is a very good clarification. When you have your license, what that date on the license says, that's the date that you need to be saying, thinking, is this in the current triennial? Then you just like go on your merry way.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. Thank you to all of you for that. We are going to move on to our next session here on our roadmap. I'm going to bring the slides back up. All right. So we are moving on to finding accredited events, and we have another fun poll for all of you. So the question this time is, where do you go for your continuing education credits? And we have a lot of choices here. We're excited to hear and see where all of you are going. Star USA, baby. You're here today, so you'll be getting one today. I'm not really sure. I'm here to find out. Or I bought a package that has everything I need. It's worth the extra cost to never have to think about it again. Or CBP and government webinars for the win. Everything's better in person, including CE credits. Or my company provides training and all I have to do is show up, or maybe teach once in a while. Or conventions are my fave. I can knock out everything at once. And our final choice is I choose my trainings by topic. So it doesn't really matter how it's provided. Feel free to select as many of these responses as you'd like. And we've got a good mix coming in. Awesome. I'll give you just a few more moments to enter your answers to this. Fantastic. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll now, and let's look at what we got. So we have a number of people that say Star USA, which you are here today, so that makes sense. Thank you. We love having you join us. We have also a number of people joining CBP and the government webinars as well. Some people aren't sure where to find events, and that's fantastic. That's what we're going to talk about next. And I agree with all of you that answered everything's better in person. I love being in person as well. So we've got a wide range of answers here. And I would like to have Marianne share a bit about where to find accredited events, what to look for, how do we know they're accredited, and all things about finding events. Marianne, I'm going to turn it over to you.
So the most important thing when looking for courses is to make sure that course, regardless of whether it's CBP or another education provider, has that continuing education logo. And that appeared on Melissa's first slide. So that's very important because that education provider is then authorized to use that logo to designate that course as being accredited and the credit hours that are allocated to that course. We, EMTC, we do keep a list and post it on our website, emtc.org, of the courses we accredit, okay? But that's not the total universe. And we do also list CBP courses as well. You can go to the CBP website. They will have a number of webinars. The Trade Summit was also accredited for 17 credits. All of the other accreditors, I think, probably will have a different way of displaying or notifying you about which courses are accredited. That's just to say there is no master list, at least at this point, of all the courses. But if you go to our various websites, and a link to our websites are listed on CBP's website under continuing education, LCB continuing education. So if you visit our website, you probably will get a pretty good list.
Fantastic. Thank you. And with the logos as well, we have the logos on our final slide of our webinar today as well. So I'll make sure when we get to that slide, we point out those logos to look for as well. Wonderful. All right, we have some questions again in this section. Our first question, Cynthia, I'm going to come to you for this one. So the question is, and I think this is a really great question, do I need to register for an event with the same email address that I used to submit the triennial status report?
It's a good question. No, that is not necessary. They're two separate, I think, requirements or activities. The important thing about your contact information when you're filing your triennial is to make sure you have an updated, good contact that you're providing CBP, because it is their sole way of communicating with you And I know throughout this process of trying to communicate with the licensed customs broker population, there have been some instances where they get bounce backs of not good email addresses. So that's one thing. Again, it benefits you to make sure that's an updated email. But whatever email you use when you are registering for content that has been accredited, that's up to you. You can use your personal, your work. That is totally up to you. But the important thing is that if you, and it's a record keeping thing, I don't want to get into that too much, but that you're able to receive information back, confirmation information back through that email address.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying. So it doesn't really matter which email address you use, but make sure it's one that is active and working. I know most of us probably have multiple email addresses at this point. I know I have way too many. So thank you for clarifying. All right, Andrea, I'm going to come to you for this next question. And the question was, can I get credit for self-study?
Well, Melissa, not for just self-studying on your own, the regulations or something like that, like just doing your own self thing. No, you can't get credit for that. But there are many education providers that provide self-study courses or all different type, webinar that you can take at home. That would if it's accredited, that would count. A self-study course that has modules, that has detailed agenda and detailed learning requirements, that is also accredited, that would qualify as well. So again, like Marianne said, when you're looking for training opportunities, it needs to have the logo. It needs to be accredited for CE credits by one of the accreditors. And to do that, self-study isn't maybe the right term, but whatever course that is would then be accredited according to the requirements.
Perfect. Thank you. So if it's a course that has been accredited and it's a self-paced course,
Yes.
maybe that's a better term,
Yes.
then that
And then
would
some of
qualify.
those courses yes, some of that self-study time is included, but it's not self-education or self-directed, I guess. It is a real course that's been accredited.
Right. It's not finding a book on the topic and reading the book. Yeah.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. All right. Marianne, I'm going to come back to you for this one. So this one has to do with internal training. So companies that provide training. What type of trainings count for continuing education that would be done within an organization?
So let's say you're a brokerage firm. There's a corporate licensed brokerage operation, and let's say there are multiple brokers within that corporation. You can do internal corporate training for those licensed customs brokers, submit that internal training to us for review, and we go through the standard operating procedures to make sure that that course or that training does meet the requirements that is also set out in the regulations. And then we allocate the number of credits based on a formula that CBP has set out. And what's unique about that internal training that people should know is that those courses we would not advertise. We would issue a unique identifier number, and the company would use that unique identifier number for that internal training that those LCBs could then include in their record keeping. But that course, by definition, is not available to the public.
Got it. So for anyone who's watching, if you are someone that provides training to your organization, or if there is training being provided to you, it's great to ask to see if it has been accredited. And if not, it can be submitted to one of these accrediting partners so that you could also get credit. So thank you for clarifying that. All right, one more question in this section. Heather, I'm going to come to you for this one. Do trainings need to be in English to count for credit?
I think we said yes, because we've talked about this. This was a long conversation. And Elena, can you back me up and say, yes, we definitely decided in the end, even though we do realize there's other languages being spoken, but I think that I just want to double check with Elena.
Correct. A customs business
Okay.
has to be conducted in English, and so trainings have to be in English. Also, the accreditors need to be able to accredit training, and that has to be in English for them to be able to reliably accredit courses. We would never conduct our webinars in anything other than English, although, I suppose, regionally it probably happens that some things happen in other languages, but here at the national level, we only do things in English. Good question, though.
Thank you for clarifying. And I'm sure
Yeah.
over the past few months, as you've rolled this out too, you're getting so many questions that has helped clarify all of the answers in all of your minds as well. So thank you for sharing that. All right, moving right along. I'm going to bring these slides back up. We are moving into our obtaining and tracking continuing education codes. We get a lot of questions about codes. And so I'm really excited for this conversation. But first, we have another poll. Our next poll question is, what do you need as proof that you attended an accredited event? Is it 1, a photo of you, your cat, and your computer screen, or you with the speaker if you're at a live event? Is it 2, a certificate of completion? Or 3, a notarized affidavit from someone who saw you at the event? Or 4, the continuing education code? Give you a few moments here to submit your answers. Thanks for joining us in the polls. For all of you that are here voting, it makes it fun for us as well. So thanks for participating in this. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end this poll and let's share the results here. All right, so it looks like a majority of the folks out there said the continuing education code. And a few people also said the certificate of completion. And oh, not too many, but 2 of you did say a photo of you and your cat, which I would love for that to be the requirement. That would make it very fun. All right. Cynthia, can you please help us understand what is needed and where to find it and what happens if our code doesn't work and all the things code related?
Thank you, Melissa, and thank you for having us. I think having all the group here, we don't have True Trade with us, but I think we have worked so well along the way in kind of tackling some of these issues as they've come up. So the unique identification code, and there's a lot around that these days. It is a code that is generated by the accreditors, the 5 of us, and then also CBP on behalf of the government providers of content. And that code, we hand it over once we assure that the content meets the eligibility criteria for licensed customs broker continuing education credit. We hand that code over to the education provider. So they're in charge of when to provide it to those who have completed their content or attended their event. So again, I want to say that again because we often get questions from folks who have attended an event or listened to a webinar, and then they come to us and ask for the code. We don't know whether or not you registered and paid or attended the event or completed the course. So we have to turn you back over to the provider who then is the entity that gives that to you, awards it to you. Some do it on a certificate of completion. They may put the code there. They may show it at the end of a webinar. They may, when you complete a course, you see it at the very end, or complete an exam. So again, it's up to the provider to award that to the attendees and the broker. How to keep track? There are various ways, but don't get like uber focused on just the code. And Lisa's going to talk about record keeping because it's not just the code, but there's other data elements that you need to be mindful of related to the event that you attended. And again, I'll leave that for Lisa to cover. The codes, let's say, for example, this webinar. Those of you who attended this live, you will receive from Melissa and Larissa the unique identification code at the end of this webinar. If you tell your colleague, hey, you should watch this STAR webinar recorded event, is now recorded, we'll have a different unique identification code associated with the recording. So it's not going to be the same code that's issued for live and a recorded event. So that's important. And it's important not to share the code with others who didn't attend events, right? You put the time in, you maybe paid for an event, and it's not to be shared. And so again, it's kind of this extra security element that we put in place for the providers to ensure that, again, the credit only goes to those who have completed and put the time in to consume that content. Melissa, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for addressing too some of the questions that we've been getting a lot of, that of being the code for the live event and the recorded event are different. So those of you that are here live, we will be showing the code at the end of our session together. If you're watching the recording, you will also see the code at the end, but your code is going to be different. So there are two different codes. Another thing that we have been seeing a lot, there has been a lot of confusion with codes not working. For example, if someone has the CCS or the CES designation as well with NEI, when you submit your information on their website and you have found the code hasn't worked. And if you are finding that is the case, check out to see if you have O's or zeros in the code. There's been a lot of confusion of using one versus the other. Another thing too that we've noticed is if a code has dashes in it as well, you want to include those dashes when you are keeping track of the code, when you are submitting it, if you do submit it any place as well. So those are some of the things that we have been seeing pop up quite a bit. And Cynthia, I have a few questions for you specifically, where we do work with so many folks that enter their codes and information in the NEI website. The first question being, if I track my code on the NEI site, does that count, or do I need to keep a separate record somewhere else? So would someone need to keep a spreadsheet with the records if they enter it on your site as well?
Again, I think Lisa's going to cover different methods of record keeping, but if you choose to use the function that is available through the NEI, that is a benefit that is available to our CCS, Certified Custom Specialists, and Certified Export Specialists designees. And so they have the ability to track events that they attend or content that they have completed by inputting the unique identification code associated with that event. And it can be tracked there because it has the event. You put the date that you took it, it'll have the code on your transcript, and then you can print that transcript with a specific date range, which for this triennial will be February 1st through the end, January 31st of 27. And you can print that out, and we would advise you to then save that as a file. So you would always have that available to you. So.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. And one other question, Cynthia, for you. if someone is trying to enter their code on the NEI site and it doesn't work, what recommendations do you give to folks in that case?
So if the event was accredited by the NEI, like this one that you're listening to today, we have created a shell of that event in our learning management system. So, that event you can search for the event, and if it shows up and the code doesn't work, again, just as Melissa said, you need to look exactly at the code, how it was presented to you. If you still experience challenges with the code being accepted, you can reach out to us and we can reach out to the provider, because possibly there was some maybe some error in how it was, received by us or by the provider, and we can correct that. And early on, we had some issues with dashes, no dashes, or we would send out a code and then the provider would not show the dashes. So those are things we can work out between the provider and us, or any of the accreditors for that matter. And we do allow, if another accreditor has accredited that event, it won't appear in our learning management system, but those who are in our community can still upload that content to their transcript as what we call external learning. So thank you for that.
Perfect. Thank you for explaining. That is very helpful. All right, we've got one more section to get to before our Q&A section. So let's jump back in. And we started talking some about record keeping and submitting our codes to CBP. It's come up a few times, but we're going to dive in even deeper. We've got our final poll question here. So the question is, when do you submit your list of CE training dates and codes to CBP? Is it 1, when filing your triennial status report? Is it 2, if you're audited by CBP? 3, after each accredited event you attend? 4, yearly, just like filing taxes? And 5, what list are you talking about? Ooh, we've got a good mix. And Lisa, I am very excited for you to bring some clarity around this. I'll give it just a few more moments here. All right, let's go ahead and end the poll and share those results. All right, so we have the majority, 59% of folks saying that you submit your code when filing your triennial status report. We have some saying when you're audited, and some are saying after each event you attend. So we've got a variety of answers here. And Lisa, I'm really excited to turn it over to you to help us know exactly what we need to do with these codes and how to submit them. So with that, Lisa, I'm going to let you take it away.
Sure. Thank you so much. And thank you again for having us. So the requirements are outlined in the regulations, 19 CFR 111, which governs, of course, all licensed customs brokers. They were amended to reflect these continuing education requirements, and specifically, 19 CFR 111-102 is going to specify the elements that you need to keep. And that's going to be, the title of the education provided, the name of the education provider, the dates attended, the number of CE credits accrued, the location of the event, and any other documentation that proves you attended the event, which of course could be a certificate of completion and has to have this unique code that we reference. And the reason the unique code is so important is we report, as accreditors, we have to report all accredited courses to CBP on both a monthly and quarterly basis in accordance with our standard operating procedures. And then if once CBP does get to any auditing, and if they were able to, audit a broker's records, they'd be able to track that code back to something that was accredited because we report those codes to CBP. But when the triennial report is going to be filed in 2027, the licensed customs broker isn't going to upload any kind of information like that. They're simply going to answer, have you met the requirements? Yes or no, like a radio button. And if they haven't, they explain why. And if they have, CBP is going to take them at their word that they did so. And then CBP, after that triennial report, will do random auditing to see if people, have complied. So I think where the confusion lies is people think that they're going to get the certificate of completion, or there's going to be some way they're going to upload this with the triennial report, or they also get confused. And I know with ICPA, most of our members are importers, and importers who are in trade compliance, who have a customs broker license that they want to maintain. And so they'll come to us, they'll attend an ICPA event that was already accredited, and then they'll come through our portal and ask me to accredit their attendance. That, they don't have to do that. The regulations are very clear that they just maintain the information within their records, as Cynthia mentioned, her program. If it's a transcript, I know ICPA with our annual conference, we give a certificate of completion that showed it was worth, 14 hours, continuing education hours. That certificate of completion has all of these data elements and the code, so they can keep that. We also provide a spreadsheet to our members in case they want to track, their information that way. It really doesn't matter, but the licensed customs broker is responsible for maintaining those records and providing them to CBP in the event of an audit. And they need to maintain those records for 6 years because of the triennial periods, or, they're 3 years apiece. We thought that the 6 years was the best way to evaluate that, because CBP may audit or go back and audit a prior period. So I do hope that, it helps explain and clarify how the reporting should work. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. With that as well, for everyone that registered, we will be sending out a spreadsheet that we have shared as well to collect those data points too. So thank you for saying that. We have actually the first question in our Q&A boxes around this topic, and I have some others as well, but I want to jump to this one right away. So the question is, I just did the trade facilitation conference last week. So how do I get the continuing education credits for that event?
Well,
So
go
you
for
were
that
supposed
one,
to come to our
Elena.
table. You were supposed to come to our table and we were supposed to meet, but it's okay. It's absolutely fine. So you will need to write to the continuing education box if you didn't come and meet with Heather and I at our booth that we were sitting at, along with, well, Cynthia was there as well. Marianne was there. You don't need to have the certificate in order to prove that you were that you attended. It is a courtesy that we are providing as just as the education provider for that particular event. It is more important that you have proof that of registration, and that will show that that's something much more official, both the registration email and potentially payment if a payment was involved, and it was for this. So those things are just as good as a certificate of completion, because somebody mentioned in one of the chat comments that you don't necessarily get a certificate of completion. That's right. So it's much more important that you have the certificate of registration. That said, if you didn't get if you didn't sign on to a spreadsheet with us when you were at the event, give us a shout and a holler in the continuing education at cbp.dhs.gov mailbox, and we will help you get set up. We are also in the process of dealing with the recordings that took place last week and the attendance that was online. So we are working with the hosts of that event. That was a different office than ours, but still here in CBP. We're working with them to get the attendance list and the registration for those of you who attended the online portions of the event, so that you'll be able to get your education codes for those as well. Everything is in the works and it's upcoming, so stay tuned and keep an eye on your mailbox. The other thing we wanted to point out based on a comment that Cynthia made probably about a half an hour ago about having a good email address. One of the things that we are sort of promoting as a good practice is to have an email address that you use only for your broker related activities. Make it something that is private. Gmail accounts are obvious, but obviously any other email provider that you have that is not connected to your company would probably be a great idea. And make sure that it is a correct address. One of the things that we had planned on doing back last fall was doing a much more robust email outreach blitz to all of the brokers. We were getting so many bounce backs and so many reports back that I never received the email that you sent, that we put a pause on that. And a lot of it was bounce back messages. You all need to enter your email address, I believe, twice when you do your triennial report. Don't just cut and paste, because if you do it wrong once, you cut and paste it twice, and now it's wrong twice. And sometimes we can maybe figure out what went wrong with your email address, but you don't want us doing that. I mean, Flood Smurth at fedox.com is probably, probably Fred Smith at fedex.com, but we aren't going to make that correction because we don't know for sure. So those are some things regarding your email address that you want to be careful about. And one of the reasons why we had you type your email address in at the summit was so that we could double check with you to make sure the email address was right, and so that we don't have to read bad handwriting. And there were some people who put their email address in wrong. So it's just important to be accurate when you're doing email addresses. That's all.
Thank you for that. All right, we're going to get to one more question. For those of you that have submitted questions that we're not going to get to, we will follow up with you after the event. The last question that I want to ask, someone is saying, I provide training material for my company. Can I claim the material as credit since I created it and recorded it for the company? Elena, since you are still unmuted, can you help us with that one?
Yes, so that's in the regulations as well. You will be, for any instruction or presentation materials that you put together with the intent of presenting or training a group or set of folks, you will receive 1 credit for that, maximum 1 credit. And over the course of the triennial, you can claim up to 12. And we did that on purpose. We didn't want you to be doing nothing but assembling instruction materials as part of your continuing education. We also wanted you to be receiving some of it. But at the same time, we understand that putting together a 1-hour presentation is probably actually more than 1 hour worth of work. And we wanted to give you some credit for putting in all of that effort to put together a quality presentation. As far as I know, and the accreditors can confirm or deny this, if you were submitting materials to the accreditors for consideration, I believe you can put in your request to receive credit as an instructor concurrently with the material that you are submitting for the course you intend to provide or presentation you intend to give.
That's correct. This is Lisa. We asked a question that, do you want the credit for the speaker of the session as well? And also to go back to Marianne's point about who we list on our site, we ask a question, do you want, to be listed as an education provider on our site? So for those people who have internal training, which are a lot of our importer clients that come through ICPA, they don't want their website posted because those are internal trainings. But many of the education providers will want their website posted on our site, and we'll list that there where people can find more accredited courses. So thank you.
And just to follow up what Lisa said, we do the same thing, but I think that we are required to give you, if you're asking for preparation credit as an instructor, we give you a separate unique identifier code for your preparation credit. And that's going to be a different code than the code provided to the education provider.
Yeah, and it's a different code, and all of us have to do that in accordance with the SOP. Correct. Thank you, Marianne.
Perfect. Thank you all for helping to answer that and providing some clarity. I've gone ahead and shared, I know we are at time today, and a lot of you have been waiting for our CE code for today. You can find it here on the screen. It's also going to be in the chat as well if it's easier to copy and paste it that way if you're here live. A couple things to notice about the code is that we have zeros in this code. So all of those O's are zeros. You're going to want to include all of the dashes as well. And as Marianne shared when we were talking about finding accredited events, you'll see two of the logos here on the side as well. We've got one continuing education logo that should be on all of the accredited events, and the accrediting partners logo should be there as well. So we have NEI's logo here. And so those are the things to look for. Again, copy down your code. We have a few webinars coming up next week. If you are not a licensed customs broker just yet, we have a webinar on all things about becoming a licensed customs broker. And in June, we're talking about using AI in global trade and how to safely do that. So with that, thanks for sticking on for an extra few minutes here as well. We are grateful for all of you joining us. I'm grateful for all of the panelists here today. This has been fantastic, and I appreciate your time and getting to know you. And again, I encourage everyone watching to get to know these organizations, get to know these ladies. They are amazing resources, and we all want to help you succeed. So from everyone here at the Star USA team, have a wonderful day, and thanks again. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.